Good morning. Welcome to week or unit number 11. It's quite a bit of information to go through this week, so we're going to get started with the objectives on the next slide. I hope everything is going well for you and you're learning more about sleep medicine and respiratory care. So let's get started with the next slide. As usual, I'm going to go ahead and list the current objectives for unit 11 in the next couple of slides for non-respiratory related sleep disturbances. First one is list and explain the three types of thyroid abnormalities that it can affect sleep. Going to explain the effect of growth hormone on sleep and its changes with age. Explain the effect of the following relation to sleep: corticotropic axis, thyroid axis, prolactin secretion, gonadal axis, leptin, and ghrelin. Next objectives include explain the effect of obesity on sleep duration, explain the effect of sleep on glucose tolerance, explain the relation of sleep in gastrointestinal physiology and disorders, explain the relation of sleep in rheumatology, and explain the relation of sleep in the renal system. Okay, let's start with the first objective. List and explain the three types of thyroid abnormalities that can affect sleep. The thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped gland located in the front of the neck. It produces two hormones which regulate how the body uses energy and affects most organs and is vital to the physiological processes such as breathing, heart rate, digestion, and body temperature. Thyroid issues can lead to sleep problems. Underactive hypothyroidism or overactive hyperthyroidism are considered risk factors for certain sleep disorders. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, is located in the hypothalamus, which regulates the circadian clock. The suprachiasmatic nucleus releases hormones that help maintain balance in the body and control bodily functions, including your sleep-wake cycle. If the thyroid is overactive or underactive, it can interfere with the thyrotropin production and the overall circadian rhythm. Hyperthyroidism can produce excessive amounts of hormones, often causes immune system issues. Graves' disease can be caused by hyperthyroidism, and type 1 diabetes is also considered a risk factor for hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Pregnancy and up to 1 year after giving birth can be linked to thyroid issues. Iodine intake can play a role in the thyroid health, which uses iodine to produce its hormones. And an inadequate or excessive amount of iodine in your diet can contribute to thyroid disease. Thyroid imbalance has been linked to sleep problems, and hyperthyroidism can cause difficulty sleeping due to arousals from nervousness, irritability, including muscle weakness and constant feeling of tiredness. It may also lead to night sweats and frequent urges to urinate. People with hypothyroidism or underactive thyroid experience trouble tolerating cold at night and joint or muscle pain that disrupts sleep. An underactive thyroid is linked to poor quality sleep, which means longer sleep onset or time it takes to fall asleep, and shorter sleep duration during the night. Younger people and women are all considered at higher risk of developing sleep problems due to hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism can occur during an underlying medical disorder, and hypothyroidism can also cause hypersomnia, which can be due to underlying disorder in the endocrine system. Untreated, it can be mistaken for sleep-related hypoventilation or excessively slow or shallow breathing that occurs primarily during sleep. Thyroid disease may be a predisposing factor for restless leg syndrome, or RLS. RLS is a feeling uncomfortable or unpleasant sensation in legs while the rest of the body is rest. RLS can lead to significant sleep loss and daytime impairments. Overactive thyroid is also considered a predisposing factor for night terrors. Sleep habits may play a role in the thyroid disease. People who sleep fewer than 7 hours a day are greater risk of developing hyperthyroidism. Sleeping more than 8 hours per day may increase the risk of an overactive and underactive thyroid function. Healthy, optimal sleep supports a healthy immune system, and people with weaker immune systems are higher risk for developing thyroid disease. Hypothyroidism develops slowly, and symptoms may not be noticed for years. It shares symptoms with a wide range of other medical symptoms. Same is true for hyperthyroidism. Both will entail multiple blood tests to diagnose. Older adults, hypothyroidism is often mistaken for depression or dementia. Hypothyroidism may be prescribed as an artificial hormone intended to boost your thyroid function, known as levothyroxine. People with hypothyroidism may be prescribed an anti-thyroid medicine called methimazole. Tips for better sleep with those with thyroid issues. First, find the right bedroom temperatures. 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothyroidism can cause night sweats. Hypothyroidism can decrease your tolerance for cold. Practice good sleep hygiene, which refers to practicing and having the habit that promotes constant, uninterrupted, and restorative sleep, including waking up and going to bed at the same time. Avoid electronic devices, winding down in the evening with soft music, light stretching or relaxing activity, unhealthy diet, no meals leading up to bedtime, paying attention to iodine intake, and avoid caffeine and alcohol hours before bed. Okay, it's time to move on to the next objective, which is explain the effect of growth hormone on sleep and its changes with age. Hormones are a chemical messenger that play a role in regulating the body's processes, systems, and function. The body needs these hormones to function properly. Hormones are released through the endocrine system and are responsible for bodily functions such as metabolism and appetite, growth, body temperature, sexual function, drive and reproduction, heart rate, blood pressure, and sleep-wake cycles. Nearly every hormone in the body is released in response to your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycle. Good sleep is crucial to health, important for hormones to function effectively, and a chronic disruption in sleep in quantity and quality leaves the door open for serious hormones issues. Human growth hormone is known as a somnotropin or growth hormone and plays a vital role in protein production and synthesis, muscle development, metabolism, and immunity. It impacts the amount and production of growth hormone in the body. When you sleep, there is a reduction in levels of growth hormone, and it may be less able to repair injuries and more likely to accumulate belly fat. Growth hormone is essential for growth and tissue repair. It is produced in the pituitary gland in the brain and is released during sleep. Growth hormone, pituitary secretion of growth hormone, is stimulated by the hypothalamic growth hormone secreting hormone. Growth hormone is a respiratory stimulant. There is a consistent relationship between the presence of delta waves on EEG and high concentration of growth hormone, and maximum growth hormone secretion takes place minutes after the start of slow-wave sleep. Slow-wave sleep decreases with age, and there are also medical conditions that result in sleep fragmentation, which all decrease growth hormone secretion. Sleep deprivation affects growth hormone secretion through deteriorations in both the circadian rhythm and the sleep-wakefulness homeostasis. Age-related deterioration of sleep quality occurs in at least two stages, and that for men. The first stage occurs between 25 and 45 of age. Also found that changes in sleep are mirrored by changes in hormone secretion. Altered levels of certain hormones may be a consequence of sleep delay. These may be an early biological biomarker in aging. By the age of 45, most men have almost entirely lost the ability to generate significant amounts of deep sleep, suggesting that middle-aged men have low levels of growth hormone. Growth hormone deficiency has been studied in the elderly, where it is associated with increased obesity, loss of muscle mass, and reduced exercise capacity. Growth hormone replacement therapy might be a better target individualized in early midlife instead of later in life. People over the age of 65 who have already lived without the hormone for decades may be less likely to respond and suffer more side effects. Question being estrogen replacement as soon as women enter menopause, not 20 years later. Somatopausal loss of growth hormone between 25 and 45. Should the treatment be started 20 years earlier? And is being researched currently. First stage of deterioration of sleep is due to aging occurs between young adulthood, ages 16 to 24, and midlife, 35 to 50. Total sleep remains constant for young adults moved into their midlife. Slow wave or deep wave sleep is decreased from nearly 20% of normal night sleep for the younger than 25 to less than 5% for those more than 35 years old. Growth hormone secretion, which occurs primarily during sleep, also declined by 75%. The second stage of deterioration of sleep occurs after the age of 50, during the transition from midlife to late. Decreased total sleep, which declines by 27 minutes per decade, more frequent and longer nighttime awakenings, and significant reduction in REM or dream sleep to about 50% of the young adult levels. The loss of REM sleep appears to be associated with elevating levels of sleep-related hormone cortisol. Human growth hormone, also known as simply growth hormone, is vital in maintaining your metabolism, your immunity, and your muscle development, and the production of proteins in the body. Not getting enough sleep limits the production of the growth hormone in your body, which can make your body less able to repair itself and recover from injury, and make you more vulnerable to weight gain. Growth hormones also affects how your body metabolizes glucose, which can create problems if your body isn't producing enough of it. This is especially true if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes. Okay, next objective. We're going to explain the effect of the following in relation to sleep. The corticotropic axis, thyroid axis, prolactin secretion, gonadal axis, leptin, and ghrelin. These will be covered in the next slides. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is corticotropic axis, or corticotropic cells serve an important role within the feedback loop of the hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal gland axis, and the stress response and behavioral response. Corticotropics produce and release ACTH, A39 amino and peptide hormone in response to the corticotropic releasing hormone, which is released from the hypothalamus. Cortisol production follows a daily 24-hour biorhythm, lowest overnight and highest first thing in the morning, and decreases throughout the day. When the rhythm gets disrupted, sleep does too. Disruption to healthy cortisol levels interfere with sleep and contribute to sleep disorders. Low levels of cortisol at the beginning of sleep is correlated with slow wake sleep. And when sleep deprivation occurs, cortisol levels act in parallel with the circadian rhythm, increasing, decreasing at the same time, with the change in the time it starts and ends higher when it should be lower, and lower when it should be higher. Cortisol is a stimulating, alerting hormone. It's the body's primary stress hormone. It drives the body's fight or flight response in the presence of a threat or stressor. In elderly individuals with fragmented sleep and decreased slow waves sleep, it worsens memory. Waking up during a fragmented sleep results in the increase in cortisol levels. Cushing patients were shown to have a bad sleep quality and decreases in REM latency, while Addison patients also had decreases in deep sleep. To have a normal sleep, the organism needs cortisol rhythm within the normal limits. Other functions include regulating blood pressure, balancing blood sugar, influencing inflammation, regulating energy levels, contributing to the cardiac system function, and helping control sleep-wake cycle. Chronically elevated cortisol contributes to sleep disruptions and other health problems. It's an essential component of human physiology. corticotropin releasing hormone is given the name because it causes release of androgen corticotropic hormone from the pituitary gland. It also acts in many other areas within the brain where it suppresses appetite, increases anxiety, and improves memory and selection attention. Together, these effects coordinate behavior to develop and fine-tune the body's response to a stressful experience. Smaller quantities is also made by the white blood cells where it stimulates swelling, tenderness known as inflammation. A number of health problems can occur when the corticotropic axis is elevated over periods of time. They include high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, weight gain, compromise to the immune system, increasing inflammation, and greater vulnerability to illness, disease, and other effects of aging. It can have problems with digestion, mood disorders, including depression and anxiety, and of course, sleep problems. Cortisol doesn't operate in isolation. It's part of the complex system known as the HPA, hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis, which combines parts of the central nervous system and the endocrine systems. It is produced in the adrenal glands and the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland located in the brain. It is complex dynamic communication of HPA axis that produces cortisol and helps to regulate the body's functions ranging from sleep-wake cycle to stress and mood to digestion and immune function. Chronic stress is such a widespread problem with such deep effects on sleep. Cortisol is more than a stress hormone. It also plays a major role in regulating sleep and other physiological functions. Cortisol has a daily 24-hour rhythm. It's highest in the morning for most biotypes. It begins to rise gradually on the second half of a night's sleep. It makes a gradual decline throughout the day, reaching its lowest levels around midnight, and reduces its lowest levels in the evenings right around your bedtime. It plays a critical role in sleep-wake cycles, stimulating wakeful internal sleep drive and other hormones, including adenosine and melatonin, rise at night to bring about sleep. Cortisol and its rhythm imbalance is called homeostasis. It can be thrown out of sync, and the leading problem is in chronic stress is a major contributor to the elevated cortisol, excessively active HPA, and has compromised state of arousal, exhausting anxiety producing and sleep deprivation. Also contributes to the compromised immune system, chronic inflammation, weight gain, and chronic disease. Okay, next on the list is the thyroid axis. Sleep has a bidirectional relationship with the hypothalamic, pituitary, thyroid, and both these homeostatic processes are interdependent for a robust physiological functioning. Thyroid stimulating hormone is strongly influenced by sleep, and it in turn impacts the quality and duration of sleep. The interplay between hypothalamic, pituitary, thyroid axis, and sleep cycle regulates energy and metabolic processes, and a disruption in either of them leads to a dysregulation of the other. Next, thyroid deprivation, thyroid axis. Well, with sleep deprivation is associated with thyroid functions, an increase in TSH, T3, or T4 levels. Hypothyroidism can also cause sleep deprivation. Low thyroid hormones may disrupt the sleep cycle, leading to a reduced nighttime sleep and increased daytime sleep. Hypothyroidism slows metabolism and may increase the risk of certain sleep disorders. Thyrotropic axis is stable throughout the day and increases during the early hours of the evening, reaching its maximum level at the beginning of sleep. Before waking up in the morning, it returns to stable levels that continue through the day. THS secretion is influenced by the circadian rhythm and by sleep. Sleep has an inhibitory effect on THS. This effect disappears during sleep deprivation. THS are respiratory stimulants. If there is hypothyroidism, there is a tendency for hypoventilation and OSA. There is sleepiness during the daytime and decrease in sleep-wake cycle. In hyperthyroidism, it's increased There's an increase in movement during sleep, decreased REM duration and insomnia, and an increased metabolic rate. Okay, next we're going to talk about prolactin secretion. Prolactin is a hormone produced by the pituitary gland. High levels can affect sexual and reproductive health, may result from medications, health conditions, or prolactinias, benign tumors in the pituitary gland. Prolactin plays an important role in healthy functions of the body. Insufficient or excessive may cause health issues. Non-cancerous tumors of the pituitary gland can cause high levels of prolactin in healthy conditions. Prolactin levels begin to increase shortly after the start of sleep. The effect of prolactin during sleep is to stimulate REM sleep. Prolactin increases after the start of sleep and peaks in the middle of sleep and thought to be related to slow wave sleep. In lactating mothers, slow wave sleep increases due to the increased prolactin secretion. Fragmented sleep decreases prolactin secretion. Prolactin is a hormone that helps development of helps the body maintain an overall stable condition and allows nursing individuals to lactate. Pituitary gland produces prolactin. Prolactin levels rise during pregnancy and breastfeeding. Other factors can also cause a slight temporary spike in prolactin levels include physical stress on the body, exercise, sexual intercourse, eating a meal, and nipple stimulation. Prolactin regulates stress and anxiety, weight gain, and hostility. Health conditions may cause a rise in prolactin levels include kidney disease, an underactive thyroid, shingles, other types of pituitary gland tumors, and risk of developing psychosis. High levels of prolactin in secretion can cause some symptoms like mood disorders, major depressive disorders, and in females, milky discharge from the nipples, irregular periods or loss of periods, and in males, erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, loss of interest in sex, experience a headache, and milky discharge from the nipples. For the treatment of prolactin, if you experience symptoms in excess in prolactin levels like hyperlactemia, contact your physician. Medication can cause prolactin secretion, and surgery and radiation therapy as well. Okay, we're going to next speak about the gonadal axis. This is the relationship between the 24-hour gonadotrophin secretion and rhythm, and gonadal steroid levels are based on the stage of maturity and sex related during young adulthood. Increased amplitude in gonadotropin secretion during sleep is characteristic in adolescence. Physiologically, the reproductive processes are governed by the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis in a time-dependent manner. The gonadal axis is what we're going to talk about next. In the male, hypogonadalism is a condition in which the body doesn't produce enough of the hormone that plays a key role in masculine growth and development during puberty, or even of sperm or both. Can be born with it, or it can be delivered in life, often from injury or infection. The symptoms begin during fetal development or before puberty and during adulthood. In males, fetal development can show female genitals that were neither clearly male or female or underdeveloped male genitalia. Puberty is the development of the muscle mass, voice deepening, growth of the body and facial hair, growth of the penis and testicles, and can cause excessive growth in the arm and legs in relation to the trunk of the body, and is used in development of breast tissue. Gonadal axis during adulthood can have effect of decreased secretions would be decreased sex drive, decreased energy, depression, erectile dysfunction, infertility, decrease in hair growth and face and body, decrease in muscle mass, development of breast tissue, loss of bone, and difficulty concentrating and hot flashes. Gonadal hormone secretion can be affected by HIV and AIDS, previous chemotherapy or radiation therapy, aging, obesity, or it can be inherited. How does it work? The hypothalamus secretes the gonadal hormone. It travels down to the anterior pituitary gland and binds with the receptors in the gland. This promotes release of LH and FSH. This LH and FSH hormones travel to the bloodstream to the testicles. LH stimulates the cells of the testicles to produce testosterone, and increased levels of testosterone have a negative feedback effect on the pituitary and hypothalamus. This results in the decrease of LH and FSH. As a result, the production of testosterone and inhibin is decreased. Okay, how it works in females. The hypothalamus secretes the gonadal hormone. It travels down to the anterior pituitary gland and binds to the receptors on the gland. This promotes the release of LH and FSH. LH and FSH travel to the bloodstream to ovaries. When LH and FSH bind to the ovaries, they stimulate the production of estrogen and inhibin. Estrogen helps to regulate the menstrual cycle and is an essential component of many other physiological processes. The inhibin causes inhibition of activities, which is usually responsible for stimulating the gonadal hormone production. Increasing level of estrogen and inhibin have a negative feedback effect on the pituitary and hypothalamus. This leads to the decreased production of gonadal hormone LH and FSH. This in turn results in decreased production of estrogen and inhibin. Okay, next on the list is leptin and ghrelin. So how are ghrelin and leptin related to sleep? We're going to talk about that in the next few slides. So ghrelin levels rise primarily in response to acute sleep deprivation, while leptin levels fall with chronic sleepiness. A single night of poor sleep can cause acute rises in ghrelin levels, but leptin concentration may remain simply the same. Okay, let's talk about leptin first. It is a hormone your adipose tissue or your body fat releases that helps your body maintain your normal weight on a long-term basis. It regulates hunger by providing the sensation of feeling full. It regulates energy balance so that your body doesn't trigger a hunger response when it doesn't need energy. It acts on your brainstem and hypothalamus to regulate hunger. Affects metabolism, endocrine system regulation, and immune system function. The leptin is directly proportional to the amount of adipose tissue. The more body fat, the more leptin you have. What happens when the leptin levels are too high? Well, it can cause a lack of sensitivity to leptin. And hyperleptinemia includes non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, Rabinson-Mendenhall syndrome, neurodegenerative disorders, depression, and food addiction. In leptin resistance, the brain does not respond to as normally would to leptin. It is constantly stimulated by leptin and doesn't get the sensation of feeling full. Lack of leptin causes your body to enter starvation mode in an effort to save energy levels, and makes you use fewer calories at rest. It contributes to obesity, causing additional weight gain in the form of fat storage due to the stimulating hunger and the decreasing resistance. Symptoms of leptin resistance, as stated before, is constantly feeling hungry. Increased food intake despite having adequate or excess amounts of body fat. If leptin levels are too low, hypoleptinemia, congenital leptin deficiency, occurs. It's a genetic condition born that you're born with that prevents your adipose tissue from producing leptin. Class 3 obesity in children and delayed puberty occur. Frequent bacterial infections, hyperinsulinemia, fatty liver disease, dyslipidemia, and hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism, which is a low sex drive, can occur. Sleep deprivation causes lower levels of leptin. Looking at the leptin's role in triggering your body's starvation mode, it's between the leptin and type of fat, also known as lipids. Leptin's role in triggering your body's starvation mode when body fat decreases can make it difficult to lose weight. Ghrelin is a hormone your stomach produces and releases. It signals your brain when your stomach is empty and it's time to eat. Ghrelin levels increase between meal times and decrease when your stomach is full. People who have obesity often have low ghrelin levels, while people who significantly restrict their calorie intake have high ghrelin levels. Okay, what does the ghrelin hormone do? It signals the part of your brain called the hypothalamus and increases appetite, promotes fat storage, stimulates your pituitary gland to release growth hormones. It stimulates your digestive system to move food from your stomach through your small and large intestines, and it contributes to controlling insulin release. Also plays a role in protecting your cardiovascular health. With ghrelin, your stomach releases ghrelin when it's empty or mostly empty. Ghrelin levels are typically highest right before meal times. Some conditions can lead to chronically low or high ghrelin. Low ghrelin levels are usually lower in people who have obesity. Some researchers think that this connection could mean that people who have obesity have bodies that are naturally more sensitive to ghrelin. The theory is that these individuals may feel much hungrier and with lower levels of ghrelin. With high ghrelin levels, people have an increase in their levels if they restrict their caloric intake, such as while on a restricted diet. High ghrelin may be also associated with biological and genetic conditions such as anorexia nervosa, cachexia, a condition that causes your muscles to go away, celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, or Prader-Willi syndrome. You can keep your ghrelin and other hormones levels healthier by practicing good lifestyle habits, such as avoiding fad or yo-yo dieting, where you gain and lose weight frequently. Eat a diet high in healthy carbohydrates, such as whole grains and lean proteins like chicken or fish. Limit processed foods, especially foods high in sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and salt. Sleep at least 7 to 8 hours nightly. Stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water and eating water-filled foods such as fruits and vegetables. And control your stress responses, as stress may increase ghrelin. Okay, let's review quickly. During sleep, leptin levels increase, telling your brain you have plenty of leptin and no need to trigger that feeling of hunger. When you don't get enough sleep, you end up with too little leptin in the body and tells your brain you don't have to have enough energy for your needs, so the brain tells you you're hungry. The decrease in leptin brought on by sleep deprivation can result in a constant feeling of hunger and slow down metabolism. Ghrelin is the exact opposite. It tells your brain. People who don't sleep enough end up with too much ghrelin in their system. So the body thinks it's hungry and needs more calorie and stops burning those calories because there's enough in storage. Yay, we're done with that objective. That was quite lengthy, but we're going to move on to the next one, which is number 4 on your list, which explains the effect of obesity on sleep duration. Researchers found a link between short sleep duration and obesity. Chronic sleep deprivation may lead to weight gain, either by increasing how much food people eat or decreasing the energy that they burn. Sleep deprivation could decrease energy expenditure by decreasing physical activity, lowering body temperature, and there's convincing evidence that getting a less than ideal amount of sleep is an independent and strong risk factor for obesity in infants, children, and adults. A good night's sleep is one of the keys to a good health and may also be the key to maintaining healthy weight. Excessive body weight has links to sleep apnea, weight loss, and improved sleep apnea. Excessive weight creates fat deposits in the person's called pharyngeal fat and can block a person's upper airway during sleep when airway is already relaxed. Snoring is one of the most common sleep apnea symptoms. Abdominal girth from excess fat can compress the person's chest wall, decreasing lung volume, which diminishes airflow, making it more likely to collapse during sleep. Obstructive sleep apnea risk continues to increase with a rising body mass index. Less common causes of sleep apnea include enlarged tonsils that block the airway, large pharyngeal or narrow throat, endocrine disorders, acid reflux, lung diseases, and heart problems. Excessive weight is a risk factor for obstructive sleep apnea, and increasing evidence that the relationship is reciprocal. So if you gain weight, you have more risk. If you lose weight, you have less risk. Sleep deprivation is associated with decreased leptin, increased ghrelin, which may increase craving calorie-dense foods. Insufficient sleep leads to overeating, obesity, and a decrease in fat loss during calorie restriction. OSA patients may be more susceptible to weight gain. Daytime sleepiness is common sleep apnea symptoms resulting from fragmented and unrefreshing sleep. Health effects of sleep apnea and excessive weight include you're deprived of sufficient quality rest. Sleep apnea sufferers experience significant stress on cardiovascular, metabolic, and pulmonary system. Obese people can also elevate the risk of heart, lung, and metabolic problems, compounding health concerns. Okay, let's talk a little bit about obesity, hypoventilation syndrome, and sleep apnea. OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, frequently coexists in people with obesity, hypoventilation syndrome. Excess weight puts pressure against the person's chest wall, compressing their lungs, and therefore interfering with their ability to take a deep, well-paced breath. Patients with obstructive hypoventilation syndrome also have sleep apnea, but not everyone with OSA has OHS. Obstructive hypoventilation syndrome is correlated to BMI. OHS can cause high blood pressures and heart failure. OSA and OHS can decrease oxygen while elevating carbon dioxide levels in the blood, and there's an increased risk for death. Obstructive sleep apnea and obstructive hypopnea apnea starts with lifestyle and behavioral modifications. Weight loss reduces fatty deposits in the neck and tongue, which can contribute to the restricted airflow, and reduces abdominal fat, which in turn increases lung volumes and improves airway traction, with airway less likely to collapse during sleep. Losing weight can reduce many OSA-related symptoms, such as daytime sleepiness. Best weight loss methods include dietary changes, increased physical activity, medications, and surgery. Okay, we're moving on to objective 5 of this week's objectives, and it is to explain the effect of sleep on glucose tolerance. So sleep can both raise and lower glucose levels. The cycle changes every day. Circadian rhythm naturally raises blood sugar levels at night, and when a person sleeps, these natural blood sugar elevations are not cause for concern. Restorative sleep might also lower unhealthy blood sugar levels. Decreased sleep is a risk factor for increased blood sugar levels. Partial sleep deprivation over one night increases insulin resistance, which can in turn increase blood sugar levels. Lack of sleep has been associated with diabetes, a blood sugar disorder. The following factors have been found to influence the relationship between sleep and blood sugar levels: the amount of time a person sleeps, the stages of sleep a person experiences, the time of day a person sleeps, a person's age, and a person's eating habits. Why does sleep affect blood sugar? Well, cortisol is increased by sleep deprivation and increases glucose. Insulin sensitivity is reduced by sleep deprivation and impacts glucose. The time of day a person sleeps impacts insulin and cortisol levels, both of which affect glucose. Increase in growth hormone accompany glucose increases during sleep. Oxidative stress and inflammation are increased by sleep deprivation and impact glucose. C-reactive protein is increased by sleep deprivation and can impact glucose. and inflammatory markers, IL-6 and TNF-alpha, are increased by sleep deprivation and can cause insulin resistance, which impacts glucose. How does blood glucose affect sleep? Those with higher blood sugar levels experience poor sleep. People with glucose levels in the pre-diabetes range are likely to have poor sleep. Low blood sugar can cause sleep problems and can cause the following symptoms: nightmares, crying or yelling during sleep, sweating profusely, feeling irritable and confused upon waking. Sleep problems can affect blood sugar. Sleep-disordered breathing is associated with higher glucose levels. OSA is associated with impaired glucose tolerance. More severe sleeping breathing issues are associated with higher blood sugar. OSA severity is associated with increased fasting glucose. Poor sleep is associated with reduced ability to control glucose levels in the diabetic patients. Inadequate sleep is associated with type 2 diabetes biomarkers, and sleep loss is associated with increased glucose levels in hospitalized patients and without diabetes. The dynamic interplay of the digestive system and sleep is an excellent example of brain-body interaction. Sleep quality and sleep disorders affect symptoms of digestive diseases. Sleep is largely regulated by the light-dark cycle associated with circadian rhythms. Sleep is closely regulated through several mechanisms which have direct effects on the gastrointestinal tracts. Sleep complaints show misalignment of circadian system can play an important role on many gastrointestinal disorders such as gastroesophageal reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, and non-fatty liver disease, and duodenal ulcers. Okay, we're down to the last two objectives for this unit. And this one is explain the relation of sleep and rheumatology. Rheumatologists could have the best opportunity to identify such concurrent disease within their patients' populations. The presence of sleep apnea as a comorbidity may interfere with the evaluation of rheumatic disease activity. The concept of increased prevalence of OSA in rheumatic disease patient is consistent with the understood pathophysiological principles. Rheumatic disease patient subsets are particularly at risk for OSA. These include the general risk factors such as increasing age, BMI, and neck circumference. Also at risk are patients with characteristics specifically related to rheumatic disease sequelae, such as features with the mandibular or TMJ, cricoid adenoid arthritis as a cause of poor upper airway obstruction. Cervical spine instability related to RA has also been associated with sleep apnea. Cytokines have been recognizing as playing a role in sleep physiological regulation, and intermittent hypoxia has demonstrated to be strongly predictive. Rheumatology clinical patients voice problems related to sleep and fatigue and coexist with other clinical features including depression and pain. Sleep abnormalities have been recognized in a number of different rheumatic diseases. Sleep disturbance vary from clinically recognizable distinct sleep disorders to diminished sleep quality, sleep fragmentation, and insomnia. Okay, we're on the last objective for this week. It is to explain the relation of sleep and the renal system. Compared to the general populations, patients with chronic kidney disease have an increased prevalence of both OSA and central sleep apnea, and the presence of sleep apnea in this population has been associated with increased risk of cardiovascular events and mortality. Unfortunately, sleep deprivation and sleep disorders are really common in people with chronic kidney disease, with up to 80% of people with stage 5 chronic kidney disease reporting sleep complaints. Chronic kidney disease sleep problems can take on several forms. The most common are insomnia, with trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or early morning waking. Insomnia affects an estimated 30 to 70% of people with chronic kidney disease. Restless leg syndrome. is an irresistible urge to move the legs, which is worse at night and is temporarily relieved with movement. RLS is frequently associated with another movement disorder called periodic limb movements in sleep. RLS affects 60 to 80% of people with chronic kidney disease. Sleep apnea, disordered breathing during sleep, including periods of apnea, heavy snoring in most cases, restless sleep, fragmented sleep, frequent awakenings, morning headache, personality or mood changes, and daytime sleepiness. Sleep apnea affects about 50% of the people with stage 5 chronic kidney disease. The relationship between sleep disturbances and chronic kidney disease seems to go both ways. People with chronic kidney disease are more likely to experience sleep problems, and sleep problems are linked to a faster decline in kidney function. Individuals with insomnia and/or the use of sedative agents suggest a link to the development of chronic kidney disease. A growing body of evidence suggests that sleep disturbances affect the development of kidney disease and suggests poor quality was associated with end-stage renal disease. Who sleep less than 5 hours are at the greatest risks. Okay, this concludes Unit 11. Listed in the next 3 slides are the references to date for the lectures. Also, at the end, there's a place for you to email me if you have questions, and there's a quiz on the last couple slides. So good luck. Have a great week. I hope I can join you in class sometime this week.